What's going on, guys? You're listening to WSOU. I am Nick, and I am here with Mattie Montgomery from Fort today. What's going on, dude?
Hey, not much, man.
So this is a very big deal. You guys are getting towards the very, very end of the band in general. So these last few shows, what's kind of going through your mind?
I am excited to sleep in my own bed. Yeah, this has been like a super long tour. Honestly, man, it feels right. It's
right.
It's not like we're super heartbroken that the band is ending. It's a decision that we made, and feel like it's the right decision. And still love the guys in the band
For sure.
The shows are still awesome.
Oh yeah,
kids are coming out and singing the songs, and so it just feels like a great way to end it.
Yeah.
We get to end it while it's still fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And so it's great, man, and yeah, it's awesome. I'm just grateful.
Yeah, for sure. I caught you guys on the first leg back in Jersey at Starland with that lineup, which I thought was a great lineup. And then this one as well is going to be incredible. So you guys definitely stacked the tours up. Yeah. What kind is your process with putting your tour lineups together? Because you've always had, throughout the years, I've seen you probably 6 or 7 times. And every time it's a phenomenal lineup. So what kind of goes through who you pick to bring out?
We just pick the bands that we like.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, all the bands on this tour are incredible.
Yeah.
Great guys, great bands. So yeah, it makes it real easy.
For sure. Very eclectic this time around too, which I like.
Right.
But the most interesting thing I think is that this is the time that you're kind of going through this. You put the last album out around last year. Been going really well with that. So what is it that's finally this time is time to call it quits? What was the process of kind of deciding that?
Well, honestly, man, toward the beginning of this year, I was spending time in prayer and just started to feel like God was kind of tapping me on the shoulder and saying, it's just time to go.
Okay.
And so I spent a few weeks praying to see if that was God or me, and then just got this really clear confidence that it was God. It's the right thing to do. And so told the rest of the guys, and they understood and even agreed. And so here we are.
For sure.
Now, into motion. And obviously, it's been a long process.
Oh yeah.
But
now, obviously, they're all kind of planning other things already. There's nothing left. Has their stuff ready to roll. Now, what's next for you? Do you have something that's
with my wife?
It's a good idea.
And my kids. Yeah, I've got 2 little boys at home.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go coach soccer.
Okay.
And maybe and wrestle with my kids in the backyard. And that'll be it. I mean, I've got other stuff, businesses and things like that. I speak and travel and preach at churches and things. But I don't have any plan. I don't have a 5-year plan. I just want to spend time with my family.
Okay. Because I always see the posts on Instagram and everything of them. They're so cool.
Oh, they're the best.
Good to see you guys spend time together. But so is there any kind of music that you want to pursue, or is this kind of something that you had your time with it? You're kind of like, I'm going to go down other ventures.
Yeah, I don't really plan to do music. To be honest, I like performing music,
right.
But I never felt like a musician. Like the other guys in my band are incredible musicians, incredibly creative. I was much like I wrote the lyrics, but I was much more about the message.
Right.
And and the message doesn't have to stop just because the music does.
Right.
So when For Today ends, I'm still going to be able to share Jesus with people and things like that. And that is more than enough for me. The rest of the guys are going to keep doing music, and they've always been the guys that have been kind of the brains behind the music anyway. So,
right.
They're much better at that than I am.
For sure. I would definitely consider you a musician. I think vocalists are definitely musicians.
I appreciate it.
Did you listen to, Shane's podcast from Silverstein with Garrett Russell? He told, because Garrett had the same thing. He's like, I'm not a musician. And he gave the whole thing about how what you do with your voice and the message you can portray through that is definitely just as important. So, for sure, I consider you one.
Yeah,
it's a different kind, obviously.
Well, I think, some of the guys in my band, they're like compelled to create music.
Right.
Like whether anybody ever hears it, they're going to do it.
Right.
And I'm not that way. Like,
okay.
I want to share my heart with people.
Right.
Regardless of whether that's, I'm compelled to share my heart with people, whether that's through music or otherwise.
Right.
But I'm not the kind of guy who, stays up all night working on the perfect riff.
Exactly.
To make the music perfect, because it's never been my
my
real thing.
Now, what do you kind of want to be the legacy that you leave behind for this band? Because obviously, you guys have had a very good run. You're one of those bands that people know who you are. They know what you stand for. People enjoy the music. What is it that you want people to like really truly remember, 5-10 years, like for today, that was that band?
I think if there's one thing that I would want to be our legacy, I would want it to be that people know it is possible to follow Jesus without compromise. The world will tell you, oh, you got to calm down. When you get older, then you'll chill out a little bit about the whole Jesus thing. You don't have to tell everybody about Jesus. And they told me that a lot. Even guys in Christian people told me, well, you don't have to do all that preaching and tell everybody about Jesus. And when you get older, you'll stop, just like I did. And I never believed that. I never wanted to accept that. And so I'm thankful that, young people, whether they're Christians or not, they can know that as they realize that Jesus deserves their attention, as they begin to follow Jesus, they can realize that they don't have to be compromised in the way they do it. And that's a great thing. I think the world is tired of seeing compromised Christianity. Even people that don't even care about Jesus, they look at hypocritical Christians and they think that Jesus deserves better than that. Right. And so I want to be, I want to leave a legacy for anybody that maybe has looked up to us or looks up to us now, for them to know that you really can follow Jesus without compromise. You don't have to be a hypocritical, two-faced, lazy Christian like there are so many of in our country right now. You really can follow Jesus fully without compromise.
Now, obviously, you have gotten a lot of pushback from media, other bands, fans, because of that, outright message that you like to get out. Now, how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure after a while you kind of, not lose sight of things, but it's kind of like, why is everyone, this is just what I want to be doing. Yeah. So how do you kind of deal with that over the years with people kind of giving you,
you don't deal with it, man. Yeah. The whole world is telling us that we have to be a certain way. You got to be skinnier, or you got to be taller, or you got to be whiter, or, you got to have straighter hair or lighter eyes. You got to have more money, more sex, more whatever. And the whole world is telling me that I got to be quieter about my faith, and it's like all that stuff is white noise, man. And they can say it all they want, but I know who I am, right? And I know what I'm here for. I know what my life is about. And some media outlet, some blog or tweet about whatever, it's not going to change that.
Right. Okay, that's good. Because obviously, it's very interesting to see how obviously such a genuine message can get taken.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, out of context, like so many other people have taken it. So obviously throughout the years there's so many things you've seen pop up, but you guys always push through, so it's great to see that.
No, thank you, man.
You stuck to what you do best, for sure. But obviously, like you mentioned, you do a lot of preaching, the spoken word albums. Is that something you're going to continue doing, like the spoken word albums?
Probably not any more of those albums.
Okay.
But I will travel and minister at churches and conferences and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. And then you have the book, obviously, that came out. Yeah. I haven't gotten to read it, but I have read a lot of reviews about it. Oh, cool. And something interesting I did read was that there was a lot of critique about how you only really touched on, it was more about the time you were in the band as opposed to before, really. And it was a lot of stuff, it felt like it was more based on a very rushed story, people were saying. Yeah, so what's kind of your feedback on that? And is there ever a time where you would really put more, I guess, into a book? Because obviously it was a very short span of time they thought that was covered.
Yeah, it was 10 years.
For sure, yeah. It's kind of hard to put 10 years in a couple pages.
Yeah, well, and the hard thing, I think, is picking, like, I could tell you everything that happened over the last 10 years. Right, it would take 10 years to write.
Exactly.
And it would be 100,000 pages long of just inane, like, and then we drove to this venue, and we loaded in, and we sat around for 6 hours, and then we went and got Taco Bell, and then we played a show, and it was fun. It's, and so it's like, I never claimed that this was going to be an exhaustive sort of account of everything that happened during my time in the band. Right. It's just the moments that shaped me, the moments that taught me the most about who I am and who God is. And so there's a lot of other stuff that I could have said, but it didn't add to the narrative of the book, or the point that I was trying to get across.
Okay, because I thought that was interesting that they pointed that out.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that from anybody. people can read it, find out for themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Now, something I thought is very interesting is that you see a lot of bands in this current scene, some of these bands that have been around 10 years or so, a lot of them are starting to, call it quits or take long breaks. Do you see a longevity in this scene? Do you think these bands can go on longer than a certain amount of time? Because it's very odd to me that the last 2-3 years, you see a lot of them kind of taking their time and like, all right, I think we're done. And it's crazy to think that from now on, a lot of those bands won't be around. Whereas, obviously pre this, kind of genre, a lot of bands, 20, 30 years, some of them are still going. Do you kind of think that there's the possibility that this can last longer than, it kind of has been? Or do you think it's after a while, it's kind of going to be over?
I think it's possible. You have bands like Metallica or, Aerosmith, who've been around for just decades and decades. And then even bands from like a more recent era, bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit, who are still doing things now, 10, 15, 20 years later. I think probably in their era, there were thousands and thousands of bands all over the place, just like there are now. And most of those bands have broken up and moved on with their lives. And those guys stuck it out and kept sticking it out and continued sticking it out. Yeah. And they're still around. And so, I think there will probably be a couple bands from this scene that, are still doing it 30 years later. Okay. I'm really thankful that it's not us. I don't want to be that band. I have no desire to do this for the rest of my life. But, I think there will probably be some guys who stay true to the metalcore life for the rest of their time on Earth.
For sure. Now, what would you say, because you've been doing this for quite a few years, what's been the most difficult thing that you kind of had to push through to kind of continue to do what you do? Because obviously, like we mentioned, there was a lot of things that people had said and this and that kind of could have been, more of a roadblock than you made it and you pushed through. So what would you say is the most difficult thing that you've faced in this time as being a band?
I think the most difficult thing for us was just seeing friends like come and go.
Right.
We've kind of stayed the course for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And, you have a lot of people who are there with you for a while and you think they're going to run with you. And then for one reason or another, they take off.
Right.
They get their feelings hurt and they leave, or they decide, I don't want to follow Jesus anymore. There's not enough street cred in following Jesus, and they dip out, or whatever. And so we've seen a whole lot of people walk away from the faith, and a whole lot of people walk away from the fellowship, the brotherhood that we have. And I think that's probably been the hardest thing is seeing so many people that started off so strong fade away and leave.
Now, what would you say, music-wise, is the song that sticks out to you the most, that you're most proud of? It's like, that's the song I want to define who we are. Like, if you had to give someone one song and, like, this is my band, and that's...
Probably Fearless.
Fearless? Okay. Yeah. I was thinking Devastator.
Oh, I love that song, but I think Fearless is
okay.
the one. Yeah.
Why that one?
We were just talking about this, me and the rest of the guys in the band, a few days ago, about how I really feel like... more than anything else, and not to say this is the only thing we do, but more than anything else, I think that what our band has been really good at is giving people courage.
Okay.
Whether it's courage to fight through another day instead of choosing suicide, or courage to face their addiction and hopefully get free from it, or courage to stand up for Jesus in the midst of a world that's telling you to sit down and shut up. I think our band has been really good at giving people courage. Like, that's what we've wanted to do, and we've seen a lot of people that have said that we've been able to do that for them. And so, I think that song kind of really sums up that when we wrote that song, we really kind of had our finger on the pulse of who we are and what we were called to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's all I have. But obviously, I want to thank you for all, not just this, but for everything that you've done music-wise and whatnot. I've been following you guys for a long time. You were actually the first band I ever saw on a Warped Tour that I went to.
Oh, sweet.
First, hardcore metalcore band. And you've also exposed me to so many of the other great bands you brought out on tour. So obviously, more than just the message itself, but a lot of the things that you've done have been very impactful.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So I just want to thank you, obviously, for that and for your time for this as well.
Absolutely, buddy.
Of course, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Cool.